Welcome to this webinar. Today we are focusing on preprint publishing and our notions of it. And please feel free to join the discussion and challenge our ideas and thoughts if you think it's necessary. But this is a quite I would say a timely topic due to many reasons. So preprints, and I'll let Katri introduce the topic for you. So Katri, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Antti, and thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Katri Seitsonen, and I work as an information specialist in Aalto University. I will give you a brief introduction to preprints. What are we talking about when we talk about preprints? And let's have a short look on publisher and journal policies, which may affect how you can publish preprints. And after my talk, Antti will give you an introduction to licensing the preprints, for example. But Antti is sharing the slides, so can you, Antti, please go ahead. Yes, so let's start with our general notion on what are the preprints actually, and our notion is based on the policies and notions by the publishers, and of course there may be a variation how publishers see these preprints, whether they are seen as prior publications or not. So therefore we always advise you to check directly from the publisher, either from the publishing agreement or from the editor, what are their rules and policies regarding preprints. But preprint is a scientific manuscript prior to peer review. It hasn't been peer reviewed yet. You can post it online on preprint servers, like for example arXiv or bioRxiv. And in most cases, the preprints are submitted to a journal or to a conference. But the main thing is that it's the version before the peer review. And most publishers do allow you to do this, but like mentioned, there may be a variation between the different publishers. Then it's good to notice that when your manuscript gets into the editorial process, it's under review in the journal, there is a major revision, minor revision required, and you are editing the manuscript based on this feedback. So in most cases, the publishers do not allow you to post the updated version to preprint servers during the peer review process. And for example, Science Journal says very clearly that any versions in response to the peer review should not be posted on preprint servers. So this means that you should wait until your paper is finally accepted. And when this paper is accepted, we usually call this as a final accepted manuscript or a postprint. And in most cases, the publishers do allow you to post this version, update this version to the preprint server, but in most cases, again, there may be an embargo period set by the publisher, so you may not be able to do it immediately. You perhaps need to wait for some time before updating this accepted version, but this is depending on the publisher. And then finally, the published version, which includes all the editing and layout by the journal. If this is open access publication and licensed under open licenses, then you can usually update this as well. But if it's behind the subscription, so in most cases, the publishers do not allow you to post this published version to preprint servers. I think we can continue to next slide. Then why should preprints be published? And this is, of course, dependent on the field. There are many fields like computer science, mathematics, physics, in which this has been a common practice for many years already. So the researchers are publishing the preprints already at the time of the submission to a journal. And posting your preprint online already before the peer review will definitely speed up scientific communication, because we all know that the peer review processes may take several months or even more. And this has been very useful, especially during the pandemic, when there has been a real need to get research results relating to COVID-19 virus published as soon as possible. And one example is Rapid Reviews COVID-19. It is an overlay journal, open access overlay journal by MIT Press, and their aim is to accelerate the peer review of preprints concerning COVID-19 virus or the effect. And then another one is prereview.org, not peer review, but prereview.org. It is a crowdsourcing platform in which you can request a pre-review for your preprint, or you can compose a one. And this way you can get feedback and comments from your peers already before submitting your paper to a journal, for example. So this will, of course, then increase the scientific quality and perhaps shorten the peer review process time. In addition, publishing preprints will give visibility for your work. There are many researchers who are following the preprint repositories of their own field on a regular basis. And in most cases, the preprint servers are indexed to Google Scholar. So if you publish a preprint, it will become visible in your Google Scholar profile as well. And then preprints are always available open access, so anyone can have access to those, and this will, of course, increase the accessibility of your work. Then there has been a lot of discussion whether publishing preprints is there any effect on the citations? And our notion is that since the preprints are published way before the original publications, so then it's only natural that there is a effect on the citations as well. And if you are interested to hear more about this or read more, so we have included here one study concerning this question, the relationship between the bioRxiv preprints and their citations. So this is for your reference only. And next slide, please. Then I mentioned the journal policies already in the beginning, that in most cases the publishers do allow you to post the preprint online in preprint servers at the time of the submission, and most journals do not see these as prior publications. But however, we have examples of different kind of policies as well, and therefore we always encourage you to check the policy of the target journal before you publish your preprint online. And you can do this by checking directly from the publisher, or you can use Sherpa Romeo service, which shows you the different kind of article sharing policies of journals. And we have included here a few examples from Nature portfolio journals and Science journal, and both are positive and actually encouraging authors to publish their preprints online. But for example, Science limits this right to a non-profit preprint servers like arXiv or bioRxiv. So in addition that you should check whether the journal allows you to publish the preprint or not, you should also check that where you are allowed to publish the preprint. So in most cases, the commercial services like ResearchGate may have been excluded by the publishers. And then if there are doctoral students here or postdocs joining us today, always please discuss these publishing practices and decisions with your supervisor before posting anything online. And then when your paper gets published, the preprint is published. So usually the publishers require that you will update the preprint record with the publication reference by updating the DOI number and the direct link to your original publication. And this is very useful, for example, if the title of the manuscript has slightly changed during the peer review process. So it's easier to link these two together. The next one. And then shortly about funder policies, it was mentioned here that we encourage you to publish the preprints, and this definitely would speed up scientific communication, and it's real open science because they are all available open access. But if your research is funded by an external funder, for example, Academy of Finland here in Finland or EU, so in most cases the funders have their own open access requirements, and these apply to peer-reviewed publications. So the funders require that the peer-reviewed publications are made open access. And as we were discussing, the preprints are the versions prior to peer review. So it's good to keep in mind that the preprint, the submitted version before the peer review, does not necessarily comply with your funders' open access requirements. So therefore, we encourage you to always check the policies of your funder, and these may differ between the different funders and even between the funding terms of the same funder. So what are the open access requirements, and then check whether whether, for example, you could share the accepted version of your manuscript open access and comply with your funders' requirements. So from the funders' side, either the published version should be published open access, or then make the accepted and peer-reviewed manuscript version open access. But like mentioned before, there may be embargoes set for these accepted versions. So again, we encourage you to check the policy directly from the publisher or from Sherpa Romeo. But from the funders' side, for example, Horizon Europe program encourages to early and open sharing of research, and preprints are considered as one method. So it's recommended, but it's not required by the fund. But more information about the funders' open science requirements is available from Aalto's website, for example, so you can take a look at those in more detail. But I think my part was quite short here, and I will now give floor to Antti, and I hope we can continue discussion after this Antti section.
Thank you, Katri. I will show you a demo on uploading the papers to arXiv in very short at the end of this presentation, but there's some these kind of overall principles that I want to go through first. So I think this is one of the key questions when you are uploading preprints in is that you should be careful on how you license the preprint. Now I think this is very important. So for example, note that even if your funder may require the use of CC BY license in the final publication, in our understanding, this does not apply to the preprint versions, and it may cause you trouble to publish the preprints, like the submitted versions to journals as licensed with CC BY, because there's not very much that the publishers can. And Maria Rebinder is an expert on this, so she can maybe elaborate in more detail, but there's not much to copyright-wise. There's not much then to the benefit from because then you get so you should be very careful on which type of licenses you use to publish your preprints. So again, the journal publishing agreements are king here. You should check those, and if nothing is mentioned, we recommend restrictive licenses when publishing preprints. For example, the arXiv licenses, the non-exclusive distribution is one of those, and you'll see from the concrete example how it works. So this is due to the publishers may lose interest in the manuscript if it's already published in open license during the early stages. Now there are niche of journals such as overlay journals, so which actually demand you to use an open license, but I would say in general it's quite important to be careful and look at the journal policies and use restrictive licenses. And note also that like for example, arXiv allows you to upload many versions, and they can have different licenses. So you can do this to my understanding, what is called dual licensing of work. So you can the first version can be with more restrictive licenses, and then, for example, as you'll see in the practical example, if the end product is published with the CC BY license in a journal, then you're free to upload the last version with the CC BY to arXiv to update the prior versions. But we can discuss this later on. I hope this is there are other not all preprint servers. Of course, this is arXiv specific license, but in my knowledge, also the other preprint servers that we are shortly introducing to you here, they also have an option of having a quite restrictive license for the first versions of your work. And then let's see what's here. I think this is kind of the same thing. So this is kind of reiterates what Katri said there. So unless in contradiction to like how the versions should be licensed, unless it's contradiction to journal or platform policy, we recommend restrictive licenses in the previous versions. And then the accepted manuscript of the work that Katri was talking about, when it's in the peer review process and comes out of it as an accepted manuscript, that's already should be licensed according to the publishing agreement. If you examine the publishing agreements carefully, you may note that some publishers actually allow updating the preprint to arXiv with final acceptance without any embargo. So that's also possible. So it's key to study the kind of the publishing standards of the publisher, the agreements of the publisher. And then published version should be licensed to, again, according to your publishing agreement, as you'll see in the example. If the final work was, for example, if you have used the Aalto contracts with the publishers and it's licensed with published with the CC license, then this you can use this version in this license in arXiv. It makes more sense when I explain it to you in steps in the practical case. But this is our recommendation on how to license preprints. So I'm not going to go that deep into the different preprint repositories that are currently available. I think the overall trend is that I think they originated from natural sciences, but many of the fields are currently experimenting with this model of publishing. Like, for example, bioRxiv, ChemArchive, medRxiv, and zooArXiv are at least somewhat newer servers compared to arXiv. And Hall, which is the French kind of general purpose repository, is actually very multidisciplinary. So there's many disciplines within this Hall. And the overlay journals, which is an interesting concept, builds on all of these. But the CC licenses are available too, and it's also, there are also some very other cool initiatives in publishing, which are these what I would call platform-based venues, such as F1000 Research and Peer Review, Ski Post, and Open Research Europe. There's something if you are interested in how you could publish both your preprints, open peer reviews, and then the final products on the same platform. It's a kind of a different concept on the traditional double-blind peer review of journals. But these are just for you to watch. I think when we go through the example, it hopefully makes this our what we say here more understandable. So I'll share just the screen now to here. So what I will do now is I'll update the. I hope I'm sharing the right screen. I think so. Yes. I'll update my. Manuscript here in arXiv. arXiv is one of the largest preprint servers, and it has different subject categories. So so you can kind of follow the newest preprints per category. And you can then also subscribe to and order email alerting services per category here. So I usually follow digital libraries. It would be interesting to if you have ways of kind of following up preprints of your field. We can discuss these in the later stages of the session. That what are your favorite ways to follow that, like the not yet accepted versions, and I usually just check from arXiv, like if there are any papers. But yes, so now to the updating part. So first you have to log into arXiv, of course, and I'll just do that. So what I'm about to replace now is this article about overlay journals. You can see it's in the digital library category. I can maybe show it to you. Here you can see what's currently in arXiv, and there's two versions of it. It's actually the same It's the same work that Katri was showing in the first example. So these are all, I can see that there's the first version and there's the second version. So the first version is, and here is the license. I can show it to you. So it's this non-archive, this very rather restrictive license, non-exclusive distribution, which arXiv here states. And then what happened here was the first version, we sent it to a journal. It was reviewed by one peer reviewer, and it got rejected. And we, of course, disagreed with what the peer review said. And it was so easy to kind of do the modifications. It only took us 2 weeks. So we did the modifications, and then we uploaded the second version, and we of this paper to arXiv, and then submitted the second version to another journal. And again, the license in both were the same. So it was this this very restrictive arXiv license in these first two versions. And then of course we needed to study, as Katri mentioned, to study the like what does the first journal also accepted preprints, and then we see that here we look at the journal guidelines before sending it here. So it was like, it says here that Journal of Librarian Information may accept submissions of paper that have posted on preprint servers, and you had to alert the editorial office when submitting. So there was a note to the editor where we said that, like, please note that this preprint version has been published in arXiv prior submitting this to the journal. And I would say that my own thoughts on this would be like you should have like a plan with regarding journals, have like plan A, plan C, plan A, plan B, plan C, and then kind of make sure that before posting the preprint that all of these plan A, plan B, plan C, if possible, that they in fact do allow it. So it's possible that you check the journal policy and then but it gets rejected, and you try it to another journal, but they don't accept it due to their preprint policy. And this is the Sherpa Romeo service that Katri mentioned. So I can search the target journal policies from here. So journal title, ESSN, and search. And we can say that here's the submitted version, which is the preprint. Sometimes the terminology is quite diverse, but the submitted version is the same thing as preprint. So it when you read into this, it says like they can be published and pretty much any repository, any website. So this is a very useful tool, Sherpa Romeo, to check these different versions. So here we have this is also the accepted version, and now we could see that I think I would say that arXiv is non-commercial subject repository. So we could also upload the accepted version to arXiv without embargoes or such. So this is a very useful tool on checking on what are these policies of different things. But then to move on, so now I've been careful. I've had published all the preprints with restricted licenses, but now in the end, what happened is that we published the article and we got the open access from the Aalto's contracts. So the final journal article is available with the CC BY license. So I can now, that grants me the opportunity to publish the whole article as such in this arXiv, and that's what I'm about to do now. And yeah, I can show you. Then let's go back. This is my account. There are different actions here which you could do. So I want to replace this overlay journals, a study of the current landscape, with the final version, because that's being published with the CC BY. And then of course we all read the instructions in terms of submission tests and agreements. but I'm not going to do it now. And then we have this and this, and now knowing that the final version was published. This, so first versions use this arXiv perpetual non-exclusive license unless otherwise specific. That's just to be cautious and not to give all the rights, so it becomes uninteresting for the publisher. And then there's CC BY right here, which is now the final product. And I have to certify that the above information is correct. Yes, it is. And then I can bring file from previous versions, but as I'm now uploading the latest one, I'll use this. And now we have here, it's been uploaded. There's the PDF. I should go continue process files. Note that this comes from the background of natural sciences, so many of the this markup LaTeX is the preferred kind of. Okay, that's an arXiv. Now our submission is processed. We can preview our paper. Looks like this. That's the CC BY license. Final version of the work, and then continue. And now we get to do the metadata of the article. It's a different syntax to it. Now, what usually changes is the abstract, of course. So I've gone to conclusions. Okay, just copy pasting it from there. Note that because this is arXiv is LaTeX based, there are some specific markup regarding the kind of the encoding, like the text encoding and text type used. So you have to maybe kind of wiggle around a bit. I think the apostrophes mark here may cause problems, but we'll just survive with that. It might help just to copy paste the abstract in Notepad++ or so, and then change the encoding. It should resemble the LaTeX encoding, but arXiv is not very specific on what regarding the technical details, but it's usually quite easily just fixed in this. So comments, we can maybe, that's 10 pages. No, I have to. I don't know how many pages I have to check. A second. I think it was 10 pages. Now. Yes. So we do this. I'm not going to include a report number. Journal reference is a full bibliographic entry only if published, otherwise leave blank, so that I can get from here. Just copy paste that. And the DOI is on a different line. This is very important, as said by Katri. To have this, because then it gives the citations, at least into my understanding. If I use DOI here to indicate that this is published elsewhere, then Google Scholar will combine the citations first received by this preprint and then received by the final version, in my understanding. There's the ACM class. They are classifications. They are very useful. ACM is computer science classification. MSc is mathematics classification. So if you work on those fields, it's good, but they are quite difficult to be used on regarding this particular article. So I'm not going to do this now. So I think I'm all set. Report number is not on the metadata, to my knowledge, can then be, I can maybe update the metadata again, because this is the EPUB ahead of print, so I can check the metadata later if in the final, when I get the page numbers and volumes and such, and then maybe upload the final version, since this is the EPUB ahead of print. Then save and continue. See what happens. Okay, now I get to check my submission. Just say that I got there were some modifications to the terminology and sample, so I think it's all right. And then there's the journal ref, and then there's the DOI, and I can view the article. Yep, looks good to me. And then I'll just press submit. And now you can see that the article has that there's a processing, like there's a replacement here to process this update, and I could quickly show the start new submission process here. So here again, you would start. It's quite similar that what I just did, and you can have you're either submitting as the author or have a pre-authorization for the authors. And then again, if you're submitting the first versions, like please be very careful and use restricted license. And here you can also, choose what we discussed later. If you submit new works, you can choose the classification or the category of in which do you want to publish. But I'm not going to. I have no new ones to upload. So you can see that now, although I clicked it out, it's now here submission, it's incomplete, and I want to delete that because it's not a real submission. So just like that. But yes, I think we could maybe stop the recording now. I can see that if there were any other content here, I don't think so, but like there's some additional readings if you want to go through, and the ASAP Bio Preprint Resource Center is very good. I recommend that, and so forth.